This episode is brought to you by Americas Rehab Campus. Get on the road to recovery with the best rehab in beautiful Arizona. Dial 1-833-272-7342. That's 1-833-ARC-REHAB.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are now tuned in to the ARCast.
Good morning. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of the ARCast. My name is Buddha.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Nikila.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. Today's a very special episode, man. And first of all, before we get started, I want to give a shout out to Miss Callie, because I know she does the admissions, right? She brings people in, does a lot of the admissions and stuff with the people. But you came as a recommendation, Miss Leslie, from Miss Callie. So I wanted to make sure that I gave her a huge shout out. You know, continue doing what you're doing. You're out there grinding. I see you all the time when I go out there and make coffee and stuff. She's awesome, awesome human being. But today we have a very special guest. So ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm round of applause to our good friend, Leslie. Yeah. Good morning, Miss Leslie. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. If you wouldn't mind, you can grab the mic and just bring it a little bit closer, and the whole arm stretches right there.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming in. How you doing today?
I'm good.
Doing good. All right. So what was I'm curious to know from your point of view, how the conversation started with you and Miss Callie about coming on the show.
Well, Kelly's amazing.
She's awesome.
You know, I never really understood that I was a people person before I worked at the ARC. And she's amazing to work with. You know, she's always curious about my story. And so I slowly started opening up to Kelly. She's really good at connecting with people.
Yeah.
She's the first person people see when they come through the door, a lot of people, and she is always interested in what's going on. Why did this happen? Why did you make those choices? What's the background?
Yeah.
And so that's just how it happened, you know?
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's super sweet, man. And when I went to go introduce myself to you, and, you know, talking about getting you on the show, I know that you had said that you had to come and record before a certain time because you had a situation going on where you were going to get like a surgery or something like that. What's going on?
Yeah, well, I have some problems with my mouth like a lot of addicts do, and in December got my entire bottom rack pulled.
Oh no.
And it's been fine. Like I was nervous about that, but I was determined to do it and let other people see me go through it, because a lot of us addicts, that's something we have to deal with. It's just a fact.
Yeah.
And so I'm getting the top done and plates put in.
Okay.
On May 10th.
Oh man.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dental work and like any kind of mouth work is painful too.
Well, the dentist told me, you know, because I definitely don't like people around my face and in my face and doing things to me.
Yeah.
And he was like, wow, you're hard to work with. He was like, so you don't want to be anesthetized, like put under for this? And I was like, no. And he said, what if I give you a discount?
Really? That's what he said.
Wow.
I was like, well.
So you're not getting any anesthesia for the procedure?
I am now.
Oh,
He talked me into it because he was like, he was like, you're kind of difficult. Because I would tell him, don't put anything metal in my mouth.
Yeah, it's a scary thing.
And only come near me when you have to. So he was like, we're going to put you under for this.
Dental work is so scary, and it's like it's one of those things where it's like not only is it painful, but it's also a mind game. Like because you see everything if you're awake.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Oh man, it reminds me of that scene. I don't know why, of Finding Nemo when they see the little girl and they're getting her teeth done. Yeah, I get a lot of people are freaked out by the teeth work, man.
Dentist?
Yeah, my mom's been working at an orthodontic office or a dental hygienist my whole life, so it's like I've never had that fear.
That always reminds me of the Rudolph movie, the cartoon with the little boys like, I'm gonna be a dentist.
Oh yeah,
You know?
that's
Old
cool.
school movie.
Yeah, I remember that. Yep.
Heck yeah, man, we're all misfits here. too.
And it seems like all the dentists look like that, like blonde hair, glasses.
That's funny. Oh man, well, Miss Leslie, dude, thank you again for coming through. I don't know if you've ever heard the format of the episodes. We kind of we dive a little deep. We ask questions, you know. So I would love to get to know you from back when you were a little kid. Were you born here in Tucson, Arizona?
No, I'm from Northeast Philly. I was born and raised in Northeast Philly.
Nice.
And
Cheesesteaks.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Pretzels, cheesesteaks, all the good food.
Heck
yeah, I know that's what I miss most is the food. But they have good food out here too.
Yeah, it's okay. It's just different. You
Yeah.
know, I did a lot of work out in Philly. My boss was out there, and I used to love going to Philly.
Really?
These little hole in the wall places that just look like, you know, nothing's there. And you walk in, there's like 2 tables, and then they're pumping out all kinds of sandwiches and just
Dang.
food that is unhealthy but great to eat.
Absolutely. Is there any places in Tucson that are even comparable as far as cheesesteaks go? Because I can't say that I've honestly ever had a real cheesesteak.
You know, I don't know about cheesesteaks, but there was a place called Tony's Deli on 22nd and Wilmot.
Tony's.
It was right next to my dojo, and Don Hinsman and I would go over there
Yeah?
after fight training. We would go over there and have pizza. They had the best pizza at Tony's Deli, and you could get Lugatel cheese.
Heck yeah.
There, it's
Oh,
the only
yeah.
place. Yeah.
All right, I have to keep that in mind. Tony's Deli.
Is it still there?
No.
Yeah, I don't think it's
No.
still
Oh,
there.
no?
No.
It's not.
Okay. All right. It's all good, man. There's got to be somewhere around here. I always have that fear where it's like, if I'm going to eat something, I want to make sure I get a good version of it. Because then when I meet somebody who's from Philly, they're like, dude, it ain't shit. What you
It's
ate?
garbage.
Yeah, it's garbage, dude.
So you were born in Philly?
Yeah.
And then how long did you live in Philly for? Is that where you completed school? You grew up the whole time?
Well, I did not have the ideal childhood. I was adopted, and I was adopted by a family that was not a healthy family.
Yeah.
There was a lot of abuse. And, you know, from a very young age, I knew I was different because other kids didn't want to hide in the closet and drink their parents' alcohol.
Wow.
And I did. And like when I would ask the other kids, come on, let's go drink at like 9, 10 years old, they would be like, no, we don't want to do that. But I did want to do that. And like I would be in the woods, starting fires, playing with matches.
Pyro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I just always knew there was something different about me that I didn't relate to the world like, you know, the other kids did.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And like I said, I started using at a very young age. My parents took me out of school in 7th grade.
Really?
Yeah.
These are your adopted parents.
They took me out of school in 7th grade and homeschooled me. Yeah, that's so I didn't really, you know, my education, I went to school there, but only till the 7th grade.
Did you have siblings growing up?
I had an adopted brother.
Yeah.
Yes.
Older, younger,
Older.
older.
He's 4 years older than me.
Nice.
Wow.
Did the transitioning from regular school to homeschool, was that harder on you, or was that a good transition?
I wasn't really homeschooled. They just basically took me out of school in 7th grade because I was starting to like want to talk to counselors about what was going on at home.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. Wow.
Yeah. And so I think that's why they took me out of school. I was interested in writing. I did a lot of journaling. And so I think they were nervous. Looking back on it now, I think they were nervous that I was going to say something.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That was the way for them to control the situation was, hey, we're going to homeschool you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Were they church oriented.
Yes, hyper religious, neo fundamentalist Baptist.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Jeez.
Yes.
That goes on some of the stuff we were talking about yesterday.
Yeah, it's so sad to see that. I mean, did not to get too much into the abuse and stuff that you experienced, but was that something that you and your brother both equally had experienced?
No.
No. Oh man, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're growing up. Of course you're troubled. You're dealing with all these circumstances at home,
Trauma early on.
Yeah.
Did you have were you when you were in school till 7th grade? I mean, was school easy? Was it hard?
I'm sorry.
You're good.
It was very hard because I was always looking for something to numb that pain.
Yeah.
And like I said, I was different, so I got picked on a lot, and I didn't know how to make connections with people because I wasn't nurtured in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I was pretty much an outcast in school.
Okay.
And then I got charged with having a bunch of drugs in my backpack, and I got sent to juvenile. At the time, they just sent me to a place in North Carolina for like 10 months.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Yeah.
like one of those troubled youth
Yeah.
camps.
Man.
And how was that? Did you experience every time I talk to somebody that has gone there has experienced trauma from those places as well?
Yeah, it was definitely traumatic for sure.
Jeez.
So were there ever, because I know, people, we were talking about this yesterday, people have, people always have that like dual side. There's they show like that fake, and then there's also those people that have that really ugly side about them. Did you ever experience any type of love at all from your adopted parents, or was it just pretty much take complete advantage of the whole situation of you being in their care?
There wasn't a lot of love.
No.
It wasn't, like I said, there wasn't a lot of nurturing.
Yeah.
And it's something I took with me into my adulthood. Like I really struggled with having that, that example of what it is to be nurtured, what it is to be a nurturing person.
Yeah.
Any kind of intimate relationship, whether it was a friend or someone you're dating, things like that. That stuff just sticks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's affected at the foundation.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean?
So early on, I mean, when we're little, we're like little sponges, and to deal with that kind of trauma and stuff early on, and just traumatic event after traumatic event, it's just like, I can't even imagine. I mean, that's...
Yeah. You started getting into trouble, right? I know you said that you were drinking and stuff at like 9 years old. Who introduced you to that? Was that something you did on your own?
That was completely on my own. I sought out any opportunity to change my headspace. Now I understand that's what it is. I didn't know then. Now I understand it was something to change my headspace. I was 9 or 10 years old, and I was breaking into elementary schools just to go in there and walk around and I wasn't really, I just wanted to, because it gave me that tingly feeling like I'm doing something I'm not supposed to do.
Yeah.
And, that's like, I was always pretty much alone. I wasn't allowed to, my adopted parents were very controlling. I was not allowed to go have friends. I wasn't allowed to do things other kids were allowed to do. And
do you think that had to do with the fact of the abuse and stuff that was going on?
I really
They didn't want you to confide in a little friend or anything like that. Yeah. That control thing too. Again,
Wow.
It's sad.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
horrible. When you got caught with the drugs in your backpack, what kind of drugs do you have in there?
LSD.
Oh,
How old were you?
I was like, at that point, I think I was 13.
13.
It was about 13. Yeah.
Were you rolling when they caught you? Were you you
for
were?
sure.
Oh shit! So
Oh,
you
yeah.
didn't even see a person. You just saw like a snake or something in front of you at the time.
snake arrest in there.
It was just a crazy time in my life where I was, looking back on it now, I was just trying to get out.
Yeah.
I was trying to get out.
Or feel numb, so you didn't have to feel the, all the trauma. When we're using it, it kind of blocks those. It's you're either, you're just happy.
Yeah.
Whatever happy looks like, right? You're happy when you get your drugs and you're sad when you don't have them. And then you're happy when you get them back.
Yeah.
And then you're sad when you run out. There's no like rainbow of feelings, you know, or there's some anger mixed in there too. Maybe. I shouldn't say sad you don't have your drugs. It's more like anger.
Yeah.
I'm out. Shit.
Man, that's crazy.
But it's the whole thing of talking about being uncomfortable in your skin, you know, and then when you don't have to be in your skin, when you're on something that's changing your mindset, that's not your reality anymore. That's the escape part, you know, and really sad. I mean, at such a young age to, 9, 10 years old, hey, I'm going to have a couple swigs out of this bottle so I don't have to feel the crap I'm feeling at 9 or 10 years old.
Yeah, it is. It does. It sucks that kids have to go through that, but I'm not the only, unfortunately, I am not the only adopted child or child in the system that this happens to a lot of children.
Now, do you know who your real mom and dad were?
So, yeah, that's where the story gets. Now it's when the story gets. This is why I don't tell my story. So I'm just going to be honest and say,
if you're uncomfortable and you don't want to, we're just asking questions. We don't want you to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Whatever
absolutely.
you want to share, you share. Whatever you don't want to share, it's okay.
No, I came prepared.
Okay.
I'm going to do this, but because I trust you, and I trust you, and I know you're going to do right by me. But the reason I have made my mind up to share, even though it makes me very uncomfortable, I always feel like people aren't going to believe me, and I think that is a feeling that's been ingrained in me since, from a very young age, because that's always what they said. If you say anything, no one will believe you. Because I was raised by this very religious family that my uncle, who was part of the abuse, was actually a missionary in the Philippines.
Jeez.
And he was very prominent in the church. And he always told me, if you say anything to anyone, they'll never believe you, and we'll just say you're crazy. And so I really carried that through the rest of my life, I feel. And, so when I was going through this stuff, I had this very active fantasy life. And I always felt like one day I'm going to meet my biological parents and they're going to rescue me. And unfortunately, that's not really how it happened. So I was able to meet my biological mother. And she was very sick. She had the disease of addiction, which is probably where I inherited from.
Yeah.
And she was, doing a lot of pills, and she was a raging alcoholic.
How'd you find her?
It's crazy. So when I was born, I was 2.5 months premature, and I weighed 2.5 pounds at birth.
Wow.
And I had to be in an incubator for 25 days. But because the circumstances of my birth were so unique, my adopted aunt worked with my biological mother at the mall. They were hairstylists. So because I was 2.5 pounds when I was born, she was actually working with my mother at the time. And she was like, when I became old enough to know to say, I want to know who my mother is. And I don't really understand why my adopted mom went along with it and told the family I was interested in knowing. But when she did, my aunt was like, I know who her mother is. I've known this whole time. So that's how I met my biological mother.
Wow.
How old were you when you met her?
I was 14.
Oh, 14.
15. Yeah.
Was there any emotions that you felt towards your aunt that she had known this whole time when you found out?
Not really. No.
She knew nothing.
She knew who my mother was, so
Gotcha.
that's how I found her.
So you went to go meet her?
Yeah, she came to my house. My adopted mom called her, and she came to my house. That's how we met.
Wow.
Yeah. And we developed a relationship, and she was very sick, but I was completely dependent on the people around me because that's what abusers do.
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to drive a car. Wasn't allowed to. I was interested in school, but I wasn't allowed to go. I wasn't really allowed to do anything. And so my mother would pick me up and take me to her house. And that was a whole nother facet of the trauma that I went through.
Wow. And this is your biological mom that you're referring to.
Yes. Yeah.
So her coming into your life at 14, it didn't like fill some empty holes. It created more trauma for you.
It did. Absolutely, it did. But I mean, if you now looking back, when I think about it, it really makes sense because that's why I was given up for adoption, right? Because she knew she couldn't take care of me. I mean, it does make sense that, you know, and my father was in prison my entire life. He got out, I was 16 years old. And like, then I thought, okay, so my father's going to rescue me. Because I heard all these stories. All my mother's friends were like, do not meet your father. He's this 6'6.5" guy. He's in prison for stabbing an 80-year-old man for his wallet. Stay away from him. And I was just like, no, he's going to rescue me.
This is my savior. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you never met him, or you did?
I did meet him. Yes, I did.
Wow.
Man.
So, okay, so you're experiencing all of this at such a young age, not even knowing who you are as a person, trying to just find a way out, whatever it may be. I know you said earlier that you had an adopted brother. You know, was that your only friend at the time, the only person that you could confide in with anything, or was that relationship rocky as well?
That was all bad too. Yeah.
Wow.
It was just the way that family dynamic is. Men are in control. If you're a woman, you don't really count. I mean, you just don't really count.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
That's I was telling Matt yesterday, we were having a conversation. You know, I love my grandfather, but he was raised in that old school mentality. And my mom had a full ride scholarship to be a seamstress. She was really into that in high school. And my grandfather didn't let her go to college because she was a woman. So it's crazy to think that, so many, that machismo shit is, I don't know where it comes from, but there's a lot of families that have that.
I think that's pretty prevalent in that religion too, right? That specific one. I know there's a bunch of different religions, but I've, read a lot, and it seems to be like, men are in charge of everything. And, they don't put women on the same level. About what year is this? So you were 14?
Yeah, I was born in 1975.
Oh, me too.
So
Me too.
That's the thing. That's the thing. Like, that's hard for me to tell my story because so much. So like when I turned 13, basically so much happened in such a short period of time that like when I look back and I'm trying to like put the events in some kind of order, talk with my hands a lot.
Oh no, you're fine.
when
Big puzzle you're trying to put.
Yeah,
together.
it's and all the trauma, and then I re-traumatized myself, and so like my mind starts to not work right, and so like I just know that I just know what happened. I don't know what year it was. I was about these ages. It's hard for me to like really.
And too, I think a lot of times too, when we go through traumatic things in our lives too, like you said, the time and the date and all those things really kind of get us skewed, and because we're so just wrapped up in what's going on.
Trying to survive.
Yeah.
Trying to survive. I was trying to survive,
So during this homeschooling stuff, did you get your GED and stuff?
No, absolutely.
So the homeschooling was basically a joke.
Yeah, no, there was no homeschooling.
There was no social life.
No.
You didn't play any sports.
No.
Wasn't part of any clubs. Didn't have like
No prom,
interaction. Yeah, like normal kids are supposed to experience.
I was. So the good one thing I look back on that I'm really glad I was a part of was my adopted parents owned a spa. It was called La Crest Health Spa, and it was in Lansdale. And it was a 3-story spa. And the first aerobics class I took, I was 4 years old. And I remember being with the other women and being like, why don't I look like them? I can't. And
This is back when they wore the big socks, right?
yeah.
They had
yeah.
the
Leotards.
bands and stuff everywhere.
Oh yeah,
Jazzercise.
Yeah.
good music back then, man.
So you really enjoyed that, though?
I did. I would run around that place because my mom would take me to work with her.
Mm-hmm.
And I would run around that place and just be like lifting weights. And
Yeah.
and I took right to it. Like
And it was a release for you. Probably felt
Yeah.
safe there, too, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Did you, are you a big music buff? Do you like music?
I wasn't allowed to listen to music.
Really?
Yeah, I wasn't.
Footloose.
Yeah.
No dance. Oh, that was no dancing. Sorry.
Wow. So like, how were you? Because after you got taken out of school, you were still using, right? So
Yes.
you drugs as well.
Yeah.
So how are you getting them? Like, did you have certain like friends like that you would just kind of keep to yourself and stuff like that?
Oh yeah. I would just run off. They'd be like, "Where's Leslie?" We don't know. She's in the woods somewhere. Like, I would
Yeah.
just run off and come across, I just had this knack for attracting people. I mean, I guess that's just how life is. Like,
Yeah.
had this knack for attracting people that, I was under bridges and,
Yeah.
Perfect
You
drug
see a snake
locations.
approaching you when you're on your LSD. Oh man.
You did a lot of hallucinogenics.
So when I was
Hallucinogens?
in basically prison at 14 in North Carolina, because they didn't want to keep me in Pennsylvania. I don't know why. Back then, when you were a kid and you got serious charges, they just sent you to it. Sent you.
Like a boarding school or
It was a
outdoor camp.
prison in North Carolina, but so when I was there, I was the only kid there. Everybody else was an adult, and
Is that when you got caught for the
Wow.
drugs?
yeah,
So you were 14.
and
you said?
yeah, and so I was the only kid there. And one day, this girl was like, "Hey, if we eat this decon rat poison, we'll trip because there's strychnine in it." I was like,
Shit.
nobody else wanted to do it. I was like, "I'm down. Let's do it."
Crazy. Oh man.
Yeah,
So you were there for 10 months,
yeah,
and then you go back to Philly,
yeah.
back into the same thing, just different trauma to back to the old trauma again.
Yeah,
So you're about, what, 15?
yeah.
When is it you kind of got out of that household?
So, when I was 15, I met my husband, and I actually knew him since I was 12. We went to church together, and when I was 15, I was like, "Hey, we always talked about getting married. We were kids, and my parents didn't want me to see him anymore." So, as usual, they didn't want me to see anyone.
Yeah.
But I was like, "I have this idea. Let's get me pregnant and we'll get married." He was like, "Okay." So that's
Down.
what,
Here, I have to. I'm sorry. That's Dustin right there.
and so that's what we did. I got pregnant very quickly, and we got married, and we went to Disney World for our honeymoon.
Nice.
Wow.
And you were how old? 15?
Yeah. And
Is he the same age as you?
he was 2 years older than
2 years
me.
older?
And yeah. And so when I went to a doctor to get our ultrasound, and we found out the baby had Down syndrome. And it's a horrible story. I'm so sorry.
No. You're fine. This is your story.
This is your story.
This is your story, man. There's someone out there that's going to relate to this and
Yeah.
needs to hear it.
And you will feel a lot better after we're done too.
It's crazy how comfortable I am right now. But
Hopefully you're
Thank you.
comfortable. Yeah.
Thank you
I
very
don't know
much.
about that guy. He looks kind of shady.
I didn't even know you could read. I'm still caught up on that thing.
And so our son had Down syndrome, and the hard part to talk about. He
okay.
So he was born, and he was on a lot of ventilators and everything else, and then he died. And when that happened, like I was like, I don't even think I was 16 yet. I wasn't 16 yet.
Yeah.
And he died in December. I turned 16 in March. So
So you're a Pisces.
I'm an Aries.
Aries.
Yeah, shout out.
And I didn't know at the time that my husband was heavily using heroin. He was a very functional addict.
Mm-hmm.
And he was actually working with people with developmental disabilities, and he was doing very well for someone his age in that field.
Yeah.
And I was not doing well. I stayed home. I didn't work. I didn't have a GED. I didn't even have an ID or anything. And so I was staying home, and he was really worried about me. And his answer for that, he was 17, 18 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
His answer for that was, hey, this is the drug I'm doing, and it's helping me. Maybe you should try it. And so that's when I started doing heroin. Was during that time.
Yeah.
My biological mother came over one day and saw the needle marks in my arm, and she was like, I'm getting you out of here. And I don't remember like a lot from that time, but I know I left, and I told him, if you want us to get back together, you have to get off the drugs. We can't keep doing this. And he went to rehab. My mother continued to drink, and they let him out on furlough. He went and bought some dope, went back to the rehab, and died. So then on the day of his funeral, I just completely lost my mind when I found out he was dead. I remember when they told me, I went like into this tunnel. It was like I was in this tunnel. It was the weirdest thing. Everybody sounded far away. I just lost my mind. I was convinced like he wasn't dead. All of that. I went through all of those emotions
The stages of grief, the different stages.
And were you sober at this time?
I think so.
Yeah, that's probably why you were feeling all those feelings too, right?
Man.
I mean, I don't know that. I mean, I don't remember it real clearly. Like I'm sure if I got a hold of alcohol, I was drinking or my mom's pills. Who knows? I can't really remember, but
So in that short amount of time, you lost your son, and then you lost your husband.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
On top of all the other trauma in the 15, 16 years leading up to that.
Mm-hmm.
So where do you go in that situation? Like what did you do
to
after
Arizona.
That? You just moved to Arizona.
When I came to Arizona.
Did you move out here with your biological mother?
I moved out here. So on the day of my husband's funeral, my biological father called me. And he was like, so this is how he phrased it. I woke up this morning and I felt like you needed me. And so I'm calling you. And I was like, it was that magical thinking that a lot of us addicts have, that magical thinking. And I was like, okay. And I told him, my husband just died. I lost my son. And he was like, come out here and visit me. I'm in Arizona. He had got out of prison. Mm-hmm. He was in Greatersford prison for like my entire life. And when he got out of prison, they told him he couldn't be in the state of Pennsylvania. So he moved to Arizona.
And what do you mean about the magical thinking? The fact of like the savior? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Was he aware that all this had happened to you before he called? Or was this like a complete God shot type of a thing? Like he just called you out of that same day?
I think he was talking to my mother, but she was such a raging alcoholic that there's no, like she might not even remember talking to him. Gotcha. So there's no way to really know.
Okay.
But I did move out here to meet him and ended up staying.
It was like 91, 92, somewhere in there.
Right around there.
Yeah.
Man.
And was it down here in Tucson area that you moved? Okay.
We were actually living in Tubac when he had a shop in Tubac. He's an artist.
Okay.
Oh, nice. Like paints and sculptures and
Sculptures, yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
And have you been back to Philly since? Like, have you
I
seen
went back for my mother's funeral.
your biological mother's?
Yes. She died of this disease of addiction when I was 26 years old.
Wow.
So I'm just going to fast forward this story.
However you want.
Basically, my father was a very unhealthy person. He was a very violent person. He, he had this, he's 6'6.5".
Big man.
And he looks just like the paintings that everybody does of Jesus. He looks exactly like that. And so he had this like weird God complex. Like we can do whatever we want. We're superior human beings. And he was very like, and I was so limited I didn't have any resources. I had this image of that I was going to be rescued.
Yeah.
And that's not how it happened. And I remember I went through there where I would go to bed at night and I would be praying, God, please don't let me wake up in the morning. I don't want to wake up tomorrow. And every time I would wake up in the morning, I would be so mad at God. And I was just couldn't understand why, if there's a God, why is this happening?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was in that situation for a long time. And that's when I was really using a lot. I was doing a lot of meth. He introduced me to meth.
Your dad.
Yeah. And I was doing a lot of meth. I was doing a lot of heroin. I was he had me, I was working in bars. He always told me, if you leave, I'll find you and kill you.
Wow.
And so one day, and that's how I started fighting. That's when I started fighting. I got to a point in my life where it was, no one's coming to rescue me.
Mm-hmm.
I have to rescue me. And like, I would be fighting for my life just to survive. And I started being able to do it. And
Gaining that confidence and
like just like physically fighting, I started getting good at it.
oh
Yeah, I would be
shit.
physically fighting for my life, and I started, getting kind of to survive.
Mhm.
I got good at that.
So this is the relationship that with your dad. He was putting that abuse on you, that physical.
Yeah,
Man. Okay.
and so I realized one day I'm just done. I can't. Either I'm going to die or he's going to die. I'm not staying here anymore.
Yeah.
And I told him, because he always told me, if you leave, I'll kill you.
yeah.
And I one day just said, you're going to just have to kill me because I'm leaving. And I left and I moved right. I had met a guy one trailer away. And so that's where I went. I was like, I'm leaving. I'm not going to be scared of you anymore. And it was crazy how as soon as I called him on that, it was like the monster just disappeared. Like he just had no more power.
Mm-hmm.
My fear was how he controlled me. And I remember that was a very powerful lesson for me to learn, is that my fear is what allowed him to control me.
Since you were a baby, that's what was instilled in you, though,
Mm-hmm.
because of the adoptive parents and all that situation, right? You lived your life in fear for, I don't know, how old were you when you moved out on your own?
I want to say I was moved out here.
So yeah, you moved out here and you were like 20, 21.
No, I moved out here. I was about 16.
16.
Yeah.
And then how long were you in that toxic, home relationship?
Years. Yeah, I was about 21 when I left.
Okay.
That's when you moved in with the other guy at the trailer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And still using? Still?
Oh, I was. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I used every single day, all day long. did a lot of drugs. I was the addict that people would be like, I don't want any more. I'm done. Like, and I'd still be going.
Yeah.
Man.
Is there any other? I was the same way.
That's crazy. Is there more?
Well, you're not going to do yours, so I'll do yours.
Man.
Yeah.
Wow. So, okay. So like, how did that work though? Living with this guy, you said one trailer away. I mean, was your dad, did he just realize threatening wasn't going to work on you anymore at this point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you guys still talk? And
yeah. You know, I had kids and
how many children you got?
I have 2 that can, you know, my youngest and my oldest.
Mm-hmm.
And then I eventually adopted twins.
Oh, nice.
And I also raised my stepdaughter.
Wow.
Oh, wow. House full.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, that kind of came later. Like my oldest son's father and I weren't together long because I was using and doing all this stuff. And, you know, it was just, my life was a mess.
Now, how was
basically.
your relationship with your kids then? Did you take what you went through and completely, I know sometimes people break that cycle, right? And completely 180 over here, trying to give their kids, you know.
My kids, my children taught me how to love.
Yeah.
I didn't know what love was till I had my kids.
Yeah.
And my kids are everything to me. They're everything to me. And you know, my son, so I got this tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
My son has the same tattoo, same stencil right here. My other son has it right here. And I have these butterflies. My son got a big butterfly right here. He was like, Mom, so I have these stars and he has lightning bolts. My friends are like, Leslie, your son wants to be exactly like you. Like,
That's cool.
and he's 25.
Is that your oldest?
Yeah, my oldest son.
Nice.
And so like my sons are the light of my life. And everything I do, like they kept me, when I want to give up, they keep me fighting. They teach me way more than I could ever teach them.
Yeah.
You know, when I started working at the ARC, you know, when I got clean, after my injury, because I had a major injury, when I got clean, it was because my son walked into my room and I was, you know, I didn't walk for 5 years.
Wow.
My son walked into my room and I was like, man, Billy, I'm sorry I'm so fucked up. And he looked at me and he was like, that's okay, Mom. I've already mourned your death. And like, it was like someone slapped me in the face. Wow. And I just knew I had that moment of clarity where I knew this is what my kids are seeing me at my very worst. This, like, I have no strength right now. That's when I made the choice to go to detox. I went to detox. I got clean. I was on Suboxone for 2 years.
Man.
I started working out again. I just want to show them that how strong you can. It's okay. We make mistakes, but you can turn it around.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And you don't have to live in your mistakes. And you know what? Honestly, the ARC, it's like when I started working here, I remember coming here and I'd be like, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is where I'm supposed to be. And like, I just know that I am so glad that I stayed here because Katie is amazing. She's like one of the most amazing people I've ever met. Katie and Sammy and Kelly. And, you know, I am so lucky to work with these strong women that, you know, are just supportive and amazing. And this is what it feels like to be somewhere.
Be a part of.
Yeah.
And feel a part of.
Yes.
Right? Not just be on the outside looking in, being actually in the pack.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right? And feeling welcomed. And I hope you feel welcomed here.
I do.
You know, welcomed and loved and all that stuff that we search for.
Yeah.
And when you find that, we talked about it yesterday. When you find that, it's just
Beautiful.
where you been.
Yeah.
Yeah, for real.
So like I want to stay in the solution on this too, because I know my story is like crazy, But
When did you get sober?
so I had an injury. I was using needles forever and not very particular about, how I kept them.
Yeah.
And I got septic arthritis in my hip, but I didn't know that's what it was.
Yeah.
And so I just was like in my room, and my roommate would be like, one day he came in and said, "You're going to die. You're yellow." I couldn't feel my entire leg from the hip all the way down. And he was like, "You have to go to the hospital." He had to carry me out standing up because they couldn't fit me through the hallway and I couldn't walk. And so I got to the hospital and they thought they were going to have to take my entire leg off from the hip, but they did a surgery where they took my hip apart, scraped it all out and put it back together. And during that surgery, I flatlined for 16 full minutes. No oxygen, no heartbeat. I was in a coma 2.5 months. That's how I lost my hearing.
Wow.
My.
And how old were you at this time?
It was 8 years ago.
8 years ago.
I was 39. I was 39. Yeah.
39. But you after you finally, so all of these things that you experienced, being in that room when your son came in and everything, you just were at that tip.
And that was, you said, 2 years after your injury?
Yeah, it was about 5 years maybe after. Yeah.
And that's when you started to make a decision.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where'd you go to treatment at?
I went to Cornerstone.
Nice.
Several times because I didn't know anything about recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to Cornerstone and I detoxed. And the doctors were like, "We don't know if we don't think you're going to be successful."
Nice encouragement, of course.
And
Lose.
Yeah, we don't think you're going to be a good. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
And and so I was actually in a wheelchair when I got to Cornerstone Hospital, and that's where I started getting up and trying to walk down the hallway. It was in my brain, like I could walk, but I would fall, and I would get upset, and so I just didn't.
Yeah.
And I started walking there, and my kids would come and see me and be like, "Mom, walk here. There's railings, you can walk here." And the nurses would be like, "No, we're not going to let her do that." And my kids were like, "She's walking."
Wow.
And so, I did my Cornerstone Hospital bit. I think I was there 4 or 5, maybe 6 times. And at some point it stuck. And I did it on my own for 2 years. I did the Suboxone thing and I did a taper. But it took me so long to get off that.
For being on it, for 2 years. It takes a long time.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you feel like crap.
Yeah, and that's okay. Like that's what it took for me.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? So I have 3.5 years clean. I absolutely count.
I have to give it to you because that's beautiful. 3.5 years.
3.5 years.
Yes. And I absolutely count the time that I was on Suboxone as my clean time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's what's right for me.
Mm-hmm.
I started working out again, going to the gym a lot. And I didn't know about Narcotics Anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
And I found it at 2 years clean. And it's just been amazing. Like now I have all these new friends in recovery. I'm learning how to live a new life. And, it's not a perfect life and I'm not a perfect person, but that's okay because if I'm not making mistakes, it's
growing.
because I'm not trying hard enough.
Yeah.
If I growth means being okay making mistakes and learning from them and growing.
The 2 years you did it by yourself, you didn't, no sponsor, no meetings,
No.
none of that.
I didn't know anything about that.
Put the mouthpiece in and grit and bared it.
Yeah.
That's a tough space to be too, because there's so much other things as you learned right after, and you get into the Narcotics Anonymous and you find that fellowship and you find like the honesty and the empathy and all these different things that kind of come at you, right? And like working these steps to release some of that stuff you're still carrying, because you're still carrying it all, right?
Yeah.
You know, once you start letting go of things, I'm the type I'll let stuff go, but then I'll be like, oh shit, I better grab it and carry it for a minute again.
Well, you know what it did for me when I started working my steps. It was a magical experience in my life because every step becomes relevant. And I should probably know this. What is it? The 9th step where we make amends?
Mm-hmm.
Like my sponsor told me, you're missing someone on your list. And I was like, how do you know?
Yourself.
She said, it's you, yourself.
Wow.
And so all this working steps and everything. So my father lives in, I have 2 houses. My father lives in one of my houses. He's always lived there. Basically, I told him, my kid, that's their grandpa.
Mm-hmm.
And
this is your biological dad, too, right?
and he is important to them. They never knew anything he did to me.
Yeah.
And so I always told him, go be in that house and leave me alone. Don't just leave me alone. So when I started working the steps and I started processing all this stuff, I was able to come to a place where I was like, I'm going to let it go. I'm going to let it go. And it opened up this door for me where I was able to let go of not only all the pain, which was huge for me. I never knew I don't think I would have been able to stay clean if I wasn't able to let go of that pain. So I came to this place where I was able to let go of all the pain, all the anger, all the resentments that I had that were keeping me sick. And it was like this magical experience because now it's like so I started turning into this new person in recovery where I was like starting to be this healthy person. And then I would see him and it would take me back to that old person a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't have to do that. Now when I see him, I'm still this healthy person.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay. He's still sick. He probably will always be sick, but it doesn't have to be me that's sick with him. So I let go of all that pain and all that resentment. And now when I look at him, all I feel is sorry for him because he's 74 years old and he's sick and he's not doing well. And I'm able to be a caretaker for him. Like I give him what he needs. When he needs money, I give it to him. When he, when he's sick, we take him to the doctor, stuff like that. And I didn't do it for him. I did it for me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been this great healing for me. Then I get to come to work in a place where I feel genuine, because I know when someone comes to me with trauma, I know what they're going through. I've been there. And I wouldn't give anything that I went through in my life, I wouldn't give up on any of it because now I'm able to be there for 63 people when they need me.
Yeah.
And there's not anything you can tell me that,
It's gonna shock you.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. And I'm going to say one more time that the people I work with are amazing. We support each other. I love it here. And I love it here.
Man.
That's a good theme. It seems like a lot of people say that work here. Buddha, shares Advance, Ray. I love working here. Just being a part of seeing people make changes, positive changes, and being able to be a positive figure in other people's lives too, as myself, right? Because you said, we owe ourselves a big amends for putting ourselves through the stuff we did, right? And when we can do that and go home and put my head on a pillow and feel good about the person who I was that day and treated people kindly and with respect and didn't have to lie, cheat, steal, do anything, besides just be present for people is a great feeling, and when you like where you work, you're going to you're going to go above and beyond too. Buddha shares that all the time. It's like he loves his job,
Yeah.
working in electronics and doing the podcast and talking to clients and being a part of and employees, other coworkers, I mean, it's a great place to be. If you can't stay in your job, you're probably miserable.
Yeah.
And to be able to come to work and get that fulfillment and then go home and fill everybody else's bucket and ladle.
Yeah.
Right? Nothing better than that.
Yeah.
I mean, all the money in the world can't replace that feeling.
Nope.
You can mask it with money.
I think it's truly amazing too, because I mean, I didn't comment much through your story because it was just so impactful, and like you went through so much trauma before you were even an adult than most people go through in their whole life. And it's heart-wrenching to hear what you went through, but it's encouraging because I know that each person that walks through our door and encounters you, it's going to truly encourage them to keep pushing through whatever they've been through.
Yeah, it's going to impact them in such a positive way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You being in their lives too, like that.
I'm at a loss for words. Like, listening to your story, man. I mean, what I hear as a person, like a third party, right, is I see, it started off with the trauma and the things that, that you said that you experienced. But what I noticed throughout the pattern of your story was that you never gave up searching for something, searching for a way out, searching for, light at the end of that tunnel. And I know so many people that haven't experienced even half of what you've gone through, and they give up on themselves, or they something happens, they take their life, something horrible like that, and how beautiful in your story to know that you continue to keep searching, dude. Like, it's obvious, like, that you are happy and you're healthy and you're feeling good and you got a smile on. And I want to make sure that I let you know, just how powerful that story is and how proud of you. I think I speak on all of us, on behalf of all of us, on how proud of you that we are and thankful that you're here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, because your story, I mean, granted, you don't have to get into the nitty gritty details, but your story and people listening, you're going to impact a lot of people, and you're going to give a lot of people a lot of hope.
Yeah.
Encouragement and all those things when we just feel like dead.
Yeah.
To be able to hear that and see what you've been through and where you're at today, is why we do what we do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's crazy. It definitely impacted me today.
Yeah.
I mean, I just, I'm not alone. I'm not alone. This happens to a lot of not only girls, it happens to boys too.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to encourage anyone who's gone through that, just don't give up. That it doesn't have to define us. We have so much to offer people that have been through abuse. Don't listen to what they say you are. Define yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ever give up. Just get up because you're worth it. You're worth it.
Man, beautiful story.
I just want to thank you for being so transparent too, because I know a lot of that had to be so hard to talk about again. But I just believe that even through this podcast, you're going to reach people. Mm-hmm. And I feel like one day you could be at work and somebody's going to say, I'm here because I listened to you on the podcast and I wanted to push for myself. That it's really been so encouraging to me to hear your story and to want to share with people in my life that I think will benefit from hearing it.
Yeah. So if there's one thing you can pinpoint, like, that makes you the happiest here at work that you do, what is that? That brings you the most joy and the most,
besides being on the podcast.
Yeah, besides the podcast. But, something that you get to do daily that just reaches and touches your heart.
Well, I mean, I do a group on Saturday and I take everybody for a walk, and I love that.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love connecting with clients and just like hanging out with them. They're so cool. But this is going to sound so weird.
Try us. Seriously, try us and see.
Yeah.
I love delivering packages and property to people because I just love it when I'm like, here you go. And they're like, oh, my package came.
Yeah.
And I love, I like being a part of making sure people have what they need. And I just like it when I get out of my car and I see everybody and I get to check in with everyone. How's your day? How are you doing? And I always know I think I always know when someone's having a bad day and I'm like, hey, what's going on? And I love everybody here. I just love everybody here. I just love being here.
Nice.
Man. Well, thank you so much, Miss Leslie. Your spirit and everything is shining through right now, dude. I'm very thankful that you came and shared your story.
Yeah.
Thank you.
A lot of people always say, well, I'm not so sure I want to do it, or I'm nervous, or I'm anxious. But once you get in here and you sit in here and you get to just kind of talk, it's very refreshing, you know, and it's completely different from how she walked in, how she's going to leave.
Yeah, absolutely. That's crazy.
Smiles and she's not, even though it's hot as hell in here.
It's really hot in here.
You know. But no, thank you very much for taking the time to come and share your story. It's not easy, you know, but being transparent and stuff like that is definitely a must, you know. And man, this is pretty powerful.
Yeah, it is. It is, man.
Pretty speechless, but thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. It was great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please, one more time, give it up. Miss Leslie, man, really, thank you for coming through. You know, for all the listeners out there, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please make sure that you share this episode with somebody that you know could benefit from it. And, you know, we thank you guys for the continued support. We're in the 50s now. Excited for the future. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys have a beautiful rest of your week. Much love. God bless and peace. What's going on, everybody? This is Buddha from the ARCast, and I just wanted to thank you for checking out this week's episode. It means a lot, and if you could share it with a friend or a loved one, somebody in need in recovery, or maybe somebody who just needs that little bit of extra positivity in their life, we'd greatly appreciate it. If you would like to join us here on the ARCast, either in the studio live or online, hit us up. The links are down in the show notes of this episode, and on there, you can find direct links to our main website here at Americas Rehab Campus and all of our social media platforms. Follow us. We keep the posts positive and motivational, focused on recovery, health, and wellness. As you know, in this modern day and age, we need as much love as possible, y'all. And as always, if you or somebody you know is in need of substance abuse treatment, please don't hesitate to give us a call. We're open 24 hours a day, and our direct phone number is 1-833-272-7342. Once again, that phone number is 1-833-272-7342. I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day. Much love and God bless. Peace.